On Monday Night Football in a game that looks like it should be a little bit gross. It doesn't mean we can't have some fun, of course, for a showdown with lots of money up top. We're going to do what we always do here on Splash Play for a showdown. We're going to look at the projections and the ownership, of course, some of the advanced analytics that I swear by as well. We're going to optimize lineups. We're going to sim some lineups. We're going to hand build the lineup and sim that out as well. And by the end of this video, you'll have 3 takeaways to build unique lineups on tonight's slate. Let's get into it, guys. Debut day of the Splash Play NBA channel, so make sure you check that out at Splash Play NBA at 4 p.m. Be doing a similar process for NBA, as well as looking at what some prop bets are saying on unabated. So that's going to be a fun one coming up. A new tool to add to the arsenal here. Let me get my little sticker going. But a fun slate. See the chats coming in a little bit. Our guy Daito saying Russ got him a little cash last week. Gonna ride with him again. Look, Russ is one of my preferred plays on the slate with how he played last week. I think going against the Giants team that defensively has not shown very much on the year should be a good matchup. But should be a good matchup for Russ. Overall, the matchup though not that good. Giants 15.3 implied points. Pittsburgh a 6-point favorite, 21.3 implied points. So does look like a favoring of Pittsburgh. Also really low total with that being basically 36.5 points for the over-under. So does not look pretty on that front. Appreciate the chat, so appreciate all you guys being here with me. And hopefully I'll get some of you guys for NBA later today. Let's look at the projections though. Of course, top projected player right now, maybe not a surprise, maybe it is. Malik Neighbors, 15.5. Came back last week. The target share was not as good. Obviously 2 weeks off the concussion, not good for Malik Neighbors. You've seen him dominate the target share overall. Still, his numbers look good on the year. 32% target per out run rate, 12 targets per game, 2.4 deep targets game, 1.2 inside the red zone. The Giants somehow move the ball against the Pittsburgh defense. It's going to be pretty tough for Daniel Jones. Should be going through Malik Neighbors primarily. So Neighbors, top projected player at that salary, highest price player as well at a 10K flat salary. Russell Wilson, 15 rounded up is what we have for him. The projection actually down a little bit from where it was this morning when I uploaded some data from there. Russ, I like him in the spot. Russ last week didn't throw a lot of catchable balls. Honestly, wasn't better than Justin Fields on that front. A 55% catchable ball rate in his debut, but still 0.3 EPA per pass, 0.5 EPA per rush, 2.02 EPA on deep throws. Only threw 3 of them. They had a lot of success getting the ball downfield. That should be pretty good. Under pressure, he was not great. Saw pressure 45% of the time. Negative 0.5 EPA is basically average, or honestly a little bit better than average. Played well under play action. It's where he had the downfield success, 14 yards per play action attempt. So Russ, to me, I think did what he had to do going against a Giants team that gives up a high catchable ball rate, doesn't defend the pass too well, a flat 0 EPA allowed per pass, flat 0 EPA per drop back allowed. I like Russ a lot. I think Russ at captain probably gets underplayed today. I think people will think that game last week is not one that's repeatable or one that you expect him to do a lot moving forward. Again, the game should be ugly, but I think Russ can produce a good amount relative to an ugly game. Najee Harris. So here's a fun stat, which kind of shocked me to see. So Jaylen Warren, right? Shifty guy. One of the reasons I liked him so much in previous years was that he was really good at avoiding tackles. Seemed like he'd be a player that if he got an opportunity, would do a lot with it. This year, Jaylen Warren, a 3% avoided tackle rate. Granted, he's been hurt, had the hamstring injury, so I'm sure his mobility has been affected. Meanwhile, Najee Harris, a 29% avoided tackle rate. And why I bring this up, Najee Harris, your number 3 projected overall player, but also he's going up against the Giants team that actually has one of the worst avoided tackle rates as well, that they're basically missing tackles at a high clip. Almost 20% of the time, the Giants are missing a tackle. So should benefit Najee Harris here, who has the bell cow workload, 3.4 intended touches in the red zone per game, 1.4 of which are inside the 10-yard line. Just shy of 20 intended touches per game, 19.6. So Najee Harris, to me, Russell Wilson, 2 plays that look pretty good. Neighbors I like as well, but I think he's a play where, maybe a must play, maybe not a must play. I think that's one of the things we're going to decide throughout the slate. Daniel Jones, he's been playing pretty poorly. Supposedly the reports are that he's not going to have a short leash today. So that's, I guess, good news for Daniel Jones if you play him today. Not having a short leash, though, could mean that he still falls apart. Like he could have a long leash and have an awful game, and that could go really poorly. Pittsburgh getting blitzes, not as high as they have in previous years, 19% blitz rate. They're getting pressure about as often as they blitz, also a 19% pressure rate. But honestly, the 4.4% hurry rate is not that high compared to how Pittsburgh's been in the past. So Daniel Jones theoretically should be a little bit better because he really is one of those guys. Every QB does, but he's one of those guys that really falls apart in the pressure, negative 0.8 EPA per play under pressure plays. So for Daniel Jones, thanks to fluidity to him. If I had to guess, he doesn't get played very much. I think Russ and Najee will get played more. I think Pickens will get played a good amount as well. Wouldn't shock me if Daniel Jones gets played even less than Pickens, given the game total. So, and how Pickens played last week. So for Daniel Jones, I don't mind him if you're playing a Giants upset build, especially. But really, he's a piece that's kind of hard to trust, even to put up 14.2 fantasy points, to be honest. Pickens, your number 5 projected guy overall, 13.6 for him, $9,800 salary. Top values right now, according to Stochastic data, of course, 15% off. Link in the description for that. Please check it out. Click the link in the description too. Supports the show, which I appreciate here. Of course, trying to build all this stuff up. Jonathan Ward, a 1.9 projection at $200 is your top value. Likely not going to get a lot of work, but still a player. Could get one catch, I guess, and make a lineup if everything else hits. And really, I would say these kind of guys like Jonathan Ward, Brandon Johnson here, these guys hitting builds where really like you're using up most of the salary. You needed to get all this. You need to basically cram these $200 guys in because all the players who fill the rest of that salary hit in such a way that like you needed to get one guy here giving you just the barest minimum of points. That's how to view the $200 guys here because none of them are actually good plays. They're just kind of projection plays. You got your Scotty Millers, your McCole Pruitts, your Chris Manhertz is here. None of these guys will really be that appealing, but Tyrone Tracy, not that far off at 4,400, probably gets played a good amount after he did basically play ahead of Devin Singletary last week. Let's go to the ownership, though. Updated 1 hour ago. We got Russell Wilson, 65% ownership projected overall. Captain, 14%. So, honestly, pretty good amount of ownership expected at captain for him. I thought I could sneak up on people a little bit. If you were to stack Russ as a captain, I think you'd have to go Pickens and Freiermuth and maybe tack on a Najee with that. Honestly, Najee might not be able to make the lineup. Actually, either way would be fine with that. But he probably doesn't add value to a Russ captain lineup overall. I think Freiermuth, Pickens, maybe a Calvin Austin or a Van Jefferson. I feel like you have to have all those guys in a lineup if you have Russ at captain. But he's going to be played a good amount. We got Neighbors here at number 2, 59% ownership, 18% at captain. So a good amount at both spots, but I don't know. I don't know if I buy that. I don't know if he'll be this owned coming off of a pretty bad box score game last time out. Tough match against Pittsburgh, too. I feel like the casuals won't be excited to play Neighbors as a captain quite as much, but the projections and the fact, too, that, again, it's a pretty low salary slate with Malik Neighbors being your top guy at 10K. So maybe he just gets in a captain more naturally because there's enough money to play around with. Daniel Jones, 56% projected ownership overall, 8% at captain rounded up. Najee Harris, 54% ownership overall, 14% at captain. So they're projecting him and Russell Wilson to be flat. And this one surprised me. Pickens, 16%. I guess he did have the big outlier game with Russ coming in last week, so that will drive up the casual ownership, but only 52% overall, 16% at captain. So would have liked the Pickens captain, would have liked a Russ captain, would have been okay with a Najee captain. These guys are going to all be pretty well represented, so you're going to have to maybe Chris Boswell just to get the ball in position and don't score touchdowns. Would be one way to do that. All right. All right, under 10% owned guys, you got Singletary just on the cusp of that. Van Jefferson just on the cusp of that. Theo Johnson does still get enough work overall, averaging 56 snaps a game, 27 routes per game, 0.3 red zone targets a game, so it's hard for him to get there with a touchdown. Only 2.4 targets overall. Target per out run for him, I assume, is also not good. 9% target per out run for Theo Johnson. Theo's not playing well, but he can get there. Darnell Washington, I don't think, did he make the winner last week, Sunday Night Football? I'm not sure if he did, but under 6% owned for Darnell Washington, he'd be sort of a pivot play off of Freiermuth, who's going to have an okay amount of ownership. Darnell Washington targeted more per route, but is running much less routes, only running 8.6 routes per game, but an 18% target route run rate. So maybe Darnell could hit and make a couple catches and a touchdown. Jonathan Ward, Brandon Johnson, Jalen Hyatt, who's going to be back, basically not playing enough to really matter, I think, that much. His snap count last week, did it do anything good? Hyatt played, Hyatt was down to 3 snaps last week. The Neighbors back in. So Hyatt mostly useless here. Slayton, for comparison's sake, played 58 last week. Wandale played 49. And Neighbors, after his brain was bleeding for 2 weeks, couldn't play. 54 snaps for Neighbors. So, yeah. All right. Hyatt, not really a play either. Bellinger, God, is anybody down here actually a play on this slate in particular? Bellinger had 7 snaps last week. Manhertz had 8 snaps. This is like the thinnest. Like, obviously, all the plays that are, 10% owned or less on a showdown are going to be thin plays. Like, these are particularly thin, but they all have it like some amount of snaps, so it feels like you should probably consider him. Scotty Miller played 7 snaps last week. Eric Gray was in the mix. He was definitely behind Singletary and Tracy by a good margin. Eric Gray got 6 snaps, so my perception from the mix is pretty low. So, all right, not a lot of guys here that are actually playing snaps that matter, but these are your low-owned guys you can take a shot at. Tail to friends bet who had a sketchy over Theo Johnson 2.5 targets, telling me I'm not already cooked. I don't think you're already cooked. I mean, he's averaging over that many targets per game. He's averaging 2.6, but you're not really getting much value on that. I fucking suck at DFS. I had an okay day yesterday, but honestly, could have been better given that I faded Breece Hall and Tyreek, and that was clearly the right play. But look, DFS is a game of swings. It's sort of tough. I feel like with the modern sim environment and all that stuff, I think it's more difficult than ever if you're just kind of building out a few, really like 10 lineups or so for a week. I think it's really hard to realize your EV, but and I'd encourage you more than say, like, I think, guys like Robert Griffin III, especially, do a good job of the work, but really at this point, it's always been a volume game. And now it's like even more of a volume game because the sims give you an opportunity to attack that volume really intelligently. But if it takes any solace, like the guy from Stochastic won the $1 million yesterday. There's people out there who are using similar tools. We're seeing here on stream with me, what people are using in the industry. The Solver as well. Dink over there has won a lot of money lately. So people out there can win. It's just, you probably need a lot of money. Thank you, Naked Bo Nix, 1.5x day yesterday. Yeah, look, anything profitable, take it. Honestly, getting your money back is a win, I think, in modern DFS too. As long as you're playing lineups, like you're not playing for the cash line, but you're still playing lineups that theoretically would have had a shot to hit first, and then you still cash. That's great. All right, so top ROI line, or actually no, top ROI, top projected lineups right now. So if you're going to play a cash game as of 12 a.m. on the East Coast today, this would be the one to play. You got Tyrone Tracy at captain, George Pickens, Russell Wilson, Daniel Jones, Najee Harris, Steelers. Low-scoring game script, RB captain. It all kind of makes sense. Cash game is really not the most fun with this, but like Tracy at captain, I don't know. I'm not sold that he's like forever ahead of Singletary, but this kind of matchup, rugged running, I think he's got to be out there a little bit more than Singletary. I just don't think he has the upside to actually be a captain. Overall, in these lineups, in this 25 lineup set, which again, we're using to see the pure projection math of things. We're not putting boosts on it. We're just seeing what we're getting overall. You're getting 100% Tyrone Tracy. So you're getting him actually 28% of the time in the flex, 72 or 28% of the time at captain. Excuse me. That's a lot of Tracy at captain. 72% in the flex. I only feel like Tracy at captain works if you expect a Giants upset and the Steelers don't get there. Like Tracy at captain is like the neutral projection play. I don't think is that good. Russell Wilson, 96% of the time. So Tracy's the only one here. And honestly, I'd be perfectly okay not having Tracy in a lineup. I think the $4,400 salary, easy to envision him making a lineup, but Giants could just get boat raced here and he doesn't make it. And like a receiver makes it in a 5-1 build. I think there's a lot of ways for Tracy to not hit, but he's coming up as your must-have projection play. Cash 0 to 12 CFB lineups on Saturday. May have to start reevaluating my entire process, unfortunately. I mean, 1 week shouldn't do that. It sucks. You talk to the biggest players. I know Brick talks about it a good amount in his content. You could lose every slate in a year, and that's still relative to expectation, like what should be happening for the most part, even if you're a 150 maxer. So that's why them winning the one term in a year is so important. So you guys out there, especially if you're playing less lineups, don't, I wouldn't say don't be discouraged by it, but be aware of the fact that it's not always all your fault, even though, sometimes it is also your fault. Not that I don't know what you guys are playing individually, but I would say in general, if you follow content, you're paying attention to stuff. Like I assume most people who watch this channel are, and in general, watching stuff that's similar, you're probably not making bad plays. You're just not doing the things that lead you to have a first place finish. And even then still, if you have a top 1% finish, that's like being a winner because variance basically will carry you from that top 1% to actually winning a tournament sometimes. I was actually going through deleting some old screenshots I saw last year when went down to the fourth quarter and I had like a 10-way split. It might have been less than that for 100 and something K. I think that was the week that Garrett Wilson got a late touchdown and completely fucked up my lineup because he helped the chalk hit. But I didn't put variance on. I got to remember one day to put variance on the first build. The day is not today, but we're going to sim out some solver lineups. So the people who want that will be delighted. Oh, you know what? We don't have sims for this. Never mind. Fuck it. The solver doesn't have sims ready, guys. Sorry. We got to pivot live here in real time. We go straight to Stochastic next. Sometimes the solver doesn't upload their sim lineups until later in the day, and that is one of the things they're doing today. Let's go to Stochastic next. Of course, check out the solver. Let me put the sticker up for them. Solver, link in the description, is a great tool, even though they sometimes don't have sims ready when I need them here for a stream. And of course, Stochastic, a great tool as well. So Part of what I think Splash Play has evolved to is really just me using these tools for you guys, showing you how I would use them, certainly giving you some ideas about lineups as well. It's going to be the same thing today for Splash Play NBA, which is coming up at 4 p.m. Eastern time. So I'm going to start doing an NBA video every single day at 4 p.m. So, and this too, Splash Play, we say every day, but I take Wednesdays off to do data. For NBA, it's going to be me Monday to Friday, every single day, every weekday, doing that. So Splash Play NBA, check that out. And let's run some sims here for NFL. I should actually have just saved the whoring until we're actually running the sim. But I'm excited for it. Excited to do unabated for the first time on stream as well. Basically, what's going to happen is the first half hour of the show, I'm just going to look at projections. I'm going to try to figure out if I could put my projections on the screen too. Mine aren't going to be as good as like some of the other ones are right now because like I just take the initial rookie data and don't mess with it too much. But we will look at stochastics and unabateds on the stream as well for Splash Play NBA today. So that's coming up at 4 p.m. and it's going to be every 4 p.m. moving forward. Next up, for sure, it's frustrating with all these sims, the hand builder, though it sure does feel a lot better when you big something, I'll tell you that. Honestly, even if you're a hand builder, you should pay for probably the smallest like sim package you can get just to do your own lineups and see how they're doing in terms of EV. Like you want to still see your lineups from the positive even if you are hand building. Shout out Felix here. Yeah, Najee. Hey, Najee doing well. Hopefully that helps you out. Again, I mentioned before, in fact, he's got 3 times or 10 times the avoided tackle rate of Jalen Warren this year. Shocker, but really a credit to Najee for taking advantage of the opportunity you got this new offense. Have more 0 RB lineups than usual for Showdown. Might also be bad at the Sioux. I probably wouldn't go 0 RB, but I think Najee gets there, to be honest, today. Not saying that because Felix is here, but I do think Najee gets there today. Your top ROI lineups right now, again, 11:15 a.m. or so on the East Coast. We got Malik Neighbors here. Why did I say that weird? Malik Neighbors, Najee Harris, Pat Freiermuth, Russell Wilson, Steelers D, Tyrone Tracy. I think Tracy's going to make like every lineup here. We got Jalen Warren, your number 2 ROI lineup, Pickens, Malik Neighbors, Russell Wilson, Steelers D again, Tyrone Tracy. Again, Neighbors captain here. Neighbors, Boswell, Daniel Jones, Russell Wilson, Steelers D, Tyrone Tracy. Number 4, Daniel Jones, Giants, Malik Neighbors, Najee Harris, Steelers D, Wan'Dale Robinson. And number 5, George Pickens, Chris Boswell, Greg Joseph, Malik Neighbors, Russell Wilson, Tyrone Tracy. So only 1 out of the 5 lineups doesn't have Tyrone Tracy in it. That's how that looks right now. It's a lot of Tyrone Tracy, guys. I have to say that up top. And again, Tyrone Tracy playing relatively well, I guess. Honestly, I don't think he's as good as people think, but negative 0.04 EPA per rush for comparison's sake. Devin Singletary is like 4 times worse. A negative 0.16 EPA per rush, what Singletary has been doing. Tracy, a little better in the pass game, 0.22 EPA per target there, but only earning targets at an 18% rate, which is basically the same as Singletary anyway. Tracy's been perfectly fine. I don't think he's like a world beater here. The fact he's going to get into every lineup tonight, and people think he's like a good play. People have really been obsessed with him. They have had a boner from the best ball days. It's a lot of Tracy out there. Fucking do what you need to do, Adam. I can't believe the fucking just dying to talk about Ladd McConkey. Yes, Ladd McConkey wins the tournament yesterday. The funny part, though, is that he was projected for 15% or 10 to 15% ownership, I think was where he was at. Ended up being 2% played because nobody wanted to play him, and turned out playing him won all the money. So good for our guy Adam. Good for DFS. Who cares? It's Monday Night Football. There are also much more important things that happen, like Jaden Daniels throwing a Hail Mary. I'm not talking about that. We're talking about a fucking showdown. But it's I get it. Top ROIs right now. Nobody's got a positive ROI, but Malik Neighbors of the captain is the closest. Only a negative 0.1% ROI on him. Najee Harris, the captain, negative 2.3%. Tyrone Tracy, negative 2.5% in the flex. So nobody has a positive ROI on the slate, which seems like it sums this slate up fairly well. I think tonight kickers will feast. I think the game total supports that. You are getting a lot of kickers in the Sims. I don't think these guys get owned like crazy, but I think a kicker captain, I think especially Boswell kicker captain would appeal to me because I think they're going to be able to move the ball pretty well. We got, yes. What would a stream be without me talking about the shorts? Okay, we got it. He's not actually short and slow. He's just on a terrible offense and occasionally produces a big game, and he did it. Yay. Daniel Jones. I don't mean to belittle Adam's accomplishment. I just really couldn't care less about Ladd McConkey's accomplishments on a showdown slate. Again, I'm not even talking Jaden. Jaden was the best. We could all agree. Jaden had the play of the game, play of the day, slate winner too, in some slates. So everybody's got a negative ROI in the exposures as well, obviously. You're getting 56% Daniel Jones in the flex, 56% Russell Wilson in the flex, 47% Steelers D in the flex, Neighbors 47% in the flex as well. This is a pretty evenly split ownership. This, like, even the sim is like, I'm not taking a stand here today. The sim is basically just throwing its hands up and giving you back everybody with where the field is. So you're getting a little bit more than the field of Daniel Jones, a little bit more than the field of Russell Wilson, a good amount more of Steelers D to their credit. So Steelers D does look like fairly involved play. We got Neighbors here a little bit more than the field. Boswell significantly more than the field, I would say 42% compared to 28%. Tracy 41% compared to 31%. I think that'll actually be pretty close to what the field's ownership is. This is just no vibes. I feel like there's nothing really material to pick up from the slate from what the data showed so far. All right, let's look at some individual lineups. I'm curious to see Pickens captains. Captain Pickens. We will hand build, do 3 takeaways, build unique lineups coming up here. We won't talk about Ladd McConkey. I'll tell you what, enough of that guy. We will talk about Jay Daniels occasionally. Just because, he's in the same division at least as the Giants. We got Pickens, Boswell, Greg Joseph, Malik Neighbors, Russell Wilson, Tyrone Tracy. I don't think Jay Daniels would like this lineup. I don't think that he feels. Ladd McConkey would love it. But honestly, he feels a little more doopy, even though it's leaving $1,500 on the table. Again, people are going to want to play 2 kickers tonight. I think defense and kickers on this kind of slate always going to come up a good bit more. How does the ROI work so that everyone can be negative? Basically, it would be a thing where some of the lineups are hitting frequently enough. So like basically every player is winning enough, every player is losing enough that they're not getting enough of a substantial increase on what their expected outcome would be. So basically no players stand out is what I think the takeaway would be. Pickens, Connor Hayward, Neighbors, Najee Harris, Russell Wilson, Steelers. Connor Hayward will get you low owned. I don't know if he actually does anything. Hayward snaps, I am sure, similarly also mostly useless. But he's also got 10 snaps last week. Yeah, everybody under $1,000 has 10 or less snaps to expect here. I suppose he can catch a touchdown, but it seems pretty thin. This one expected to have a dupe, so it's probably got more than that. Pickens, Boswell, Neighbors, Freiermuth, Russell Wilson, Tyrone Tracy. Again, Tracy cannot help but get in. Pickens, Boswell, Daniel Jones, Jalen Warren, Russell Wilson, Van Jefferson. Just give me like a classic one with Najee in here. Pickens, Jonathan Ward, Neighbors, Najee, Russell Wilson, Steelers. Pickens, Giants. I don't think the Giants get it. I mean, they certainly can get a takeaway, but I really think I'd play in a Russ more. This one's okay. Actually, no, because I still want to get Boswell in, I think. All right, this one I could live with, but again, it's going to get duped to shit. So this is going to be, I don't know if this is going to be a fun slate, guys. I got to say, the more I look at this already, Pickens, Boswell, Najee, Russell Wilson, Steelers, Tyrone Tracy. That I expect to have 22 dupes despite leaving $1,700 in salary. So you just got to play some dog shit players, it feels like, to actually get unique on the slate. And I don't actually want to do that because it should be fairly consolidated for the most part. And these Pickens lineups don't do it for me. I like Pickens a lot as a captain play, but I don't think that looks good. Russell Wilson captains. We got Russ with Pickens, Najee, Freiermuth, Steelers D, Tyrone Tracy. They're expecting only 2 dupes for that. I don't think that would be it either. Russell Wilson, Brandon Johnson, Pickens, Neighbors, Najee Harris, Steelers. Brandon Johnson dropping the ownership product down, but that's really the only reason he's in the lineup. Pickens in the stack, that works. Freiermuth or another tight end in the stack, that works. Najee Harris in the stack, that works. All right, this one is going to be duped more too, I think. Russell Wilson, Boswell, Pickens, Greg Joseph, Najee Harris, Freiermuth. They're saying 3 dupes, but that probably means like 10 to 20 dupes. It's leaving $600 on the table. You're getting both kickers in, which I think is fair. This sucks. It doesn't make sense, but you got to play like a shootout, I think, to really get off the beaten path there, because you're just going to get one kicker, a defense in most of these lineups. There's not a lot of uniqueness. And then Tyrone Tracy on top is basically what's going to be in every lineup. Russell Wilson, Pickens, Greg Joseph, Najee Harris, Pat Freiermuth, Steelers D. Russell Wilson, Boswell, Daniel Jones, Najee Harris, Pat Freiermuth, Steelers D. I think Russ to hit a captain has to have Pickens hitting in the flex at least. Be my guess to have that true ceiling. Suppose he could run in a touchdown, but I don't think that'd be enough. We looked at Pickens. We look at Wilson. Let's look at Neighbors at captain exclusively. Dupes. Yeah, the dupes column is right here. But this is what they project for dupes, but it's basically this is how many dupes come up in their 10,000 lineup pool. So it's not a true representation of what the dupes will be. What I've noticed is basically anytime you see any dupe count at all for stochastic, you might as well just 10x it. If it's a 0, you still might have some dupes, but they'll be less. So basically to me, if you're playing the right way for showdowns, I probably wouldn't take any lineups that have, more than 0 dupes on stochastic. The solver I've noticed is like almost accurate to the 1, which to their credit, and again, it's not a slight to stochastic. The solver, when they have their sims out, they'll be accurate in terms of unique lineups, like almost every time. Where if it's been 0, it's like I've had max 1 dupe on some lineups. If it's been like 1, it'll be maybe somewhere 1 to 5 is max, but it's not far off at all. Again, stochastic, great product. Again, sims, if you want to get lineups in fast, that's what the sims tools are really good. You don't even know what dupes means. Duplicates. other lineups that are same. Sorry, I forget sometimes that we're not always all in the same wavelength. But yes, duplicated lineups. So the odds of there being somebody else's year entry in a tournament field that many times. Yeah, so that means that it'll be played more likely. Genuine question, Spags. How do you have time for all this with a child? I have 2 under 2, and this season's been super hard to do proper research and compliance. I have 1. He's in daycare, so that's the main thing. But it's tough. Like NBA is the toughest for me because that's what aligns perfectly with like his bath time and bedtime, and that's when I'm supposed to be doing my part. Showdowns too, it's tough. Like basically on Mondays and Thursdays, I'll come down, putting him to bed at 7:45, have a half hour to get my lineups in. Hopefully, I usually try to do it before as well. So like if nothing moves, then I don't have to change things. But that's basically how it's been. So it's a lot of pre-prep and all that. And adding NBA shows every day because I'm going to be today. Again, Splash Play NBA 4 p.m. and then deeper dive for me on Stochastic at 5. So just, a lot of time commitments. You got to find a way to make it work. Malik Neighbors lineups, though. This one says it has no dupes. So again, probably still has a couple. Neighbors, Chris Boswell, Daniel Jones, Russell Wilson, Steelers D, Tyrone Tracy. That feels also chalky. I don't even know what would make a unique lineup. I feel like you have to play a weirdo captain because like the only captains that make sense are going to have 10 to 20% ownership. Like who would even be a weirdo captain? I feel like Singletary would be a weirdo captain to play. Nothing supporting it. Last week's snap counts. Singletary coming back in. I mean, he only had 12 snaps. I think he got the ball a decent amount of the time on them. Whereas Tracy played 39. Would think Singletary claws back a little bit of that, but like he's like the only weirdo captain that I feel like can kind of hit. The only one positive ROI lineup that's really meaningful here. Singletary with Daniel Jones, Giants D, Neighbors, Najee Harris, Steelers D. Uses all the salary, still probably gets duped a lot. This one also uses all the salary, still gets duped a lot with Singletary, Daniel Jones, Freiermuth, Wilson, Tracy, Wandale. Ugh. Wandale captain. Yeah, I guess we can. I would expect this to be a spot where they try to rectify things more so with getting Neighbors going, but Wandale captain, I guess they could try to get Neighbors going. It might not work. Wandale with Daniel Jones, Greg Joseph, Jalen Warren, Najee Harris, Tyrone Tracy. It's okay. Theo Johnson getting more targets than what? He's getting 2.6 targets a game, I mentioned earlier. Does National Tight End Day transfer over to Monday? I don't know if it does. The tight ends seem to love to celebrate their day, so maybe they might want an extended one. Do you celebrate your birthday after the weekend ends? I guess would be the way to answer that one. Wandale captain, I think is thin. Certainly can hit in terms of a guy just getting a lot of routes, but wouldn't be one that I think has a lot of legs. Slayton captain, same thing. Slayton, Daniel Jones, Jalen Warren, Najee Harris, Russell Wilson, Tyrone Tracy is this lineup. Number 2, Slayton, Boswell, Jones, Pickens, Jalen Warren, Russell Wilson. Who's coming? I mean, Boswell's getting in a lot of lineups. Greg Joseph not getting into as many. My thought is playing one of the kickers at captain. I think Greg Joseph makes less sense. Let's look at Boswell captain. Boswell captain, high ROI, no dupes expected. Boswell, Daniel Jones, Jalen Warren, Neighbors, Freiermuth, Wilson. I would like to get Pickens in. Boswell, Daniel Jones, Pickens, Neighbors, Steelers D, Wandale. So we're fading Russ there. If the kicker is a captain, Russ is less likely to make the lineup. Najee's also less likely to make the lineup. You're leveraging really hard against that. So this one would probably be decently underowned. And you're not getting Tracy in there either. So you know what? This lineup, This lineup actually kind of pops to me. I don't like fading Russ. I don't like fading Najee. I think they're two of my preferred plays on the slate. But this one has a reason why you're not playing those guys, and I think that could work. This one here, can we get Pickens, Najee, and Russ all in? Trying to find one that has like all the guys with Boswell at captain. Pickens, Najee, Russ. Okay, here we go. Boswell, Pickens, Najee, Russ, Steelers D, Wandale. That's fun. So a 5-1 build with the Steelers. Boswell makes it as captain because they don't score enough touchdowns. Steelers are really the only one moving the ball here besides Wandale Robinson contributing enough to make it in a 5-1 build. I think that works. Freiermuth, sure. I don't know. Boswell captain. How the fuck do we? I shouldn't have tried to spell the whole thing. That's on me. I missed an E, right? There we go. Freiermuth, Jalen Warren, Malik Neighbors, Najee, Russell Wilson, Tyrone Tracy is the number 1 ROI lineup right now. Number 2 is Freiermuth, Boswell, Daniel Jones, the Neighbors, Russell Wilson, Steelers. These do not feel terribly unique. I guess they think that Freiermuth, the captain, is just going to be so low owned. Honestly, he might be a pretty good captain play. It is interesting. You're not getting dupes up top. Again, I still think there's a chance there's some dupes here, especially on this one that only leaves 300 on the table. This one leaves 3,100 with Freiermuth, Giants, Neighbors, Najee, Russell Wilson, Steelers. You're leaving out Pickens, which again, I do like Pickens, but if Freiermuth's going to make it as captain, that makes it a little bit easier for Pickens to not be in the lineup. This one with Freiermuth, Daniel Jones, Pickens, Najee, Russ, Theo. That gets all the guys in. Theo, not my favorite play in the world, but playing him over Neighbors, playing him over Tracy, certainly can work. And I think with Daniel Jones playing too, you get a little bit of leverage against the RBs. So you get some theoretical leverage against Tyrone Tracy and his low salary. So where I'm at with your captain. All right. I mean, look, I think Freiermuth's the most fun-looking lineup so far relative to this slate. Just got to be careful with it, though, because, like, basically whatever the top Freiermuth lineups are, it's going to be what everybody who plays Freiermuth the captain are going to play. So you do have to dig down just a little bit more for when you build those teams. Who else could possibly hit at captain? It's everyone. I guess Daniel Jones was one we can look at real fast. Certainly going to be more unique to play him at captain. Daniel Jones, top ROI lineup, has a dupe on it, so probably has a good amount of dupes. Daniel Jones, Giants D, Neighbors, Najee Harris, Steelers D, Wandale. Daniel Jones, Boswell, Jalen Warren, Neighbors, Najee Harris, Tyrone Tracy. I would like one without Tracy, with Neighbors or Wandale, ideally with my preferred Steelers. If we can afford Pickens, Najee, let's see. Going to hand build in the second here, but contains Najee, and I want and lineup contains Pickens. We get Russ in too, and lineup contains Russ. All right, so this will be a lineup with all the guys I like, but a weirdo Daniel Jones captain. Daniel Jones, Pickens, Giants D, Najee Harris, Russ, Theo Johnson. So that's the one I think we just saw. Daniel Jones, Pickens, Greg Joseph, Najee, Russell Wilson, Theo Johnson. So basically, you play all these guys and Daniel Jones at captain. You got to play Theo Johnson as your receiver with that. Let's take out Russ, and let's see if we can get Neighbors in instead. All right, here we go. Jones, Pickens, Neighbors, Najee, Theo Johnson, Tyrone Tracy. So 5 dupes on it probably means 30 dupes if I had to guess. But for Daniel Jones captain, I do like this kind of build. Take Tracy out, maybe gets a little bit less. Daniel Jones, Pickens, Giants, Malik Neighbors, Najee Harris, Theo Johnson. So Russell Wilson doesn't make the lines because Giants D theoretically got a couple takeaways on him, maybe some sacks. You're still getting in Pickens and Najee. You're fading the QB, saying the yardage concentrates here, and Russ doesn't get enough passing touchdowns. I think that works. Would work better maybe with a kicker, but I think there's something to that. Let's try to hand build it and see if I can land on what I'm really trying to build for myself here. Guys, if you appreciate this content, again, I think I'm the only stream in the world that does what I do. Just you looking at some different products here, trying to build lineups that are actionable. And again, showing you the solver, showing you stochastic here in real time. And I'll be doing the same thing for NBA today at 4 p.m. So please subscribe to this channel, hit the like button, leave a comment. It goes a long way to support me. And of course, go check out @SplashPlayNBA coming up later today. I'll drop it. Well, I think it's pinned in the chat right now, but I'll put it in the chat too. Of course, we'll be in the pinned comment too, because today is promotional day, and I still don't want to really tweet that much. So you guys get the promotion brunt of things here @SplashPlayNBA. Check it out. All right. Let's hand build this shit. We'll give our 3 takeaways to build unique lineups tonight. I think fading Tyrone Tracy, going to be one of them, if I had to guess. Your captain play here. Pickens captain. So basically the main thing I'm trying to remind myself about these DFS slates, something I see a lot and I like sometimes don't internalize, even though of course I love the EPA metrics and swear by them. Basically the Giants are an inefficient defense and the Pittsburgh Steelers do have some efficient players. And basically what happens when efficient players face inefficient defenses, they're the best version of themselves. So it's happened in enough slates. It's been part of why I've been on a decent DFS run. I'm trying to recenter myself instead of just worrying about the salary and like all this shit. It's workload plus efficiency is really the main things I'm looking at here. I think Pickens has a pretty good workload, 7.6 targets a game, 14 air yards per target. He gets 2 deep targets a game. I still like Pickens the most at captain here if I expect the Steelers to do well. So I think Russ fed Pickens well. I think we see it again here. Pickens is going to be my captain choice. Russell Wilson, again, was efficient last week. He's facing an inefficient defense. I expect him to be efficient here. I'll go Russell Wilson along with this lineup here. Again, the game theory of it could certainly change things, but in terms of just trying to make the best plays for a single build is what I would do. Najee Harris has been good on the year, still a little bit inefficient, negative 0.05 EPA per rush. But again, he's avoiding tackles, getting good work, good red zone work. I think they're going to be in position to get it in. So Najee Harris will put in. If you didn't play Najee, playing Boswell more, I think it'd be reasonable. Frankly, could still play Boswell. We don't have to score on every drive here a touchdown. So let's try to do that. Chris Boswell coming in as well. I think he'll be my leverage against Tyrone Tracy. That's how, at least how I'm envisioning it. We don't need a second receiver necessarily. We do need to think about the giant we want back. I would like to play Neighbors if I can. Got 1150 or 11.5 left in salary. What would that leave us with? It's going to leave us with one of the low dollar guys, low usage guys down here. So we can play Eric Gray, who's not really getting work. Jalen Hyde, we talked about, is not really getting work. Hayward, Pruitt, not really getting work. Ward's not getting enough work. It would have to be like a real blowout for Ward, I feel like, to get there. Scotty Miller. Scotty Miller gets you targets. Scotty Miller does a little bit more than he should. Arthur Smith, boner for him. Let's see what happens when we put Scotty Miller in. Let's run the sim here. So the team I'm going to sim out. Pickens, Wilson, Najee, Chris Boswell, Malik Neighbors. We're doing a 5-1 build, so you have the superstar receivers to bring back. Usually a logical way to play that. Scotty Miller, who again, Arthur Smith, no other analyst will tell you, hard on for Scotty Miller. You got to hear, you heard it here first. 5.4% ROI. I'd play it. Pickens will be the best. I mean, that's the assumption. The issue is that with how he played last time out, and again, that was a national game too, like Pickens isn't going to sneak up on anybody. So that's really the big concern. What happens if I swap this and go Russ at captain, Pickens flex? Does that make my run out better? Well, that's good news. Arthur Smith still has a boner for him, so he's keeping it. But that doesn't, it's a showdown, Eddie. You look at the snap count for Scotty Miller, though. I'm sure it's not very high. I'm sure Ryan Miller yesterday for the Bucs had more snaps. Is Scotty Miller getting 7 snaps a game? 14 the week before that. Nobody's saying it's a lot of work. That's why he's 0.7% owned. It's a showdown. We're trying to build unique lineups. Negative 22% ROI on this one. We have a little more money. Let's see if we take Scotty Miller out in his 7 snaps. We get Daniel Bellinger in his 10 snaps instead, or Eric Gray in his 8 snaps. Really, I don't think any of these plays were any better down here. What did Brandon Johnson play last week? Brandon Johnson played... All right, Brandon Johnson played 10 snaps, so we'll go Brandon Johnson. Sure, he also hasn't a target in many weeks, or if he has, they've not been good ones. Scotty doesn't know. He doesn't know how to get targets, apparently, in 5 weeks. Look for maybe Johnson or Hyatt. No. Hyatt's not getting any more work. Again, I can't be more clear about it. Everybody who's under 2K is not getting more than 10 snaps a game right now. So it's just a bet on somebody coming through here. I think I would take the first build with Scotty Miller. Now that we're trying some other ones here, like Hyatt hitting. I mean, it only takes one play for Hyatt to hit. Is it going to make the sim any better? So I think, honestly, well, I don't think we could swap it back. But I feel like this kind of build now where we only have one pass catcher with Russ, I probably would want Pickens back in captain, ideally. minus 32% on this one. All right, so I think the first lineup is it with Pickens and captain. So, ways to build unique lineups tonight. Number one, Tyron Tracy's too cheap. Everybody's going to play him. If you play him not getting the same amount of work, you play Singletary getting more work. That's basically that. So, for me at this point, I would say that the Tyron Tracy thing is the one player. Granted, I don't love him anyway, but I do think people are going to flock to him at that price tag. If you don't play him tonight, you get unique. He's certainly a good flex play. If if the Giants win this game, he's probably a good captain play. But in other builds here where you're playing some Pickens dominant stuff, some Steelers dominant stuff, I probably would try to avoid Tyron Tracy. That's a very obvious way to get unique today. Number two would be, I think playing less defense than kickers are going to be very obvious. I think they're still perfectly valid plays, but on these kind of slates, especially when you see a low points total like we have today, where it's like 37 combined total for them, it's not a game where you expect there to be a lot of scoring, or people aren't going to expect a lot of scoring. So if you play outcomes that aren't contingent on defense and kickers, even if the game doesn't score a lot of points, it's going to be PPR points, it could be just them punting the ball back and forth. There's a lot of ways for it to go where the kickers and defense actually don't make it. So I would say for those two, those are the really obvious things right away. The third one's gonna be more of a stretch, but those two things I think are really obvious ways to approach the slate tonight. Everybody's basically gonna be doing. Number three way to get unique on this slate, I would say Pittsburgh 5-1s. Yeah, I mean, look, I certainly gravitated towards Pittsburgh 5-1s. Really can't think of a great third way to get unique here. It's a really, I guess really the third takeaway is going to be like just a general observation. Because the pricing is so flat and the total is so low, nobody really fundamentally looks like a good play. So I would say just being mindful of the fact that you're going to be in a lot of dupe configurations, I think. And frankly, this slate, like sometimes the slates just feel this way. There've been a few we've had where I said basically I thought it was going to be a chop fest. I think this one's more likely to not be a chop fest. So really the only ways to get unique are playing guys who only play less than 10 snaps. So just being mindful of the fact that, like, hey, if you can drop Russell Wilson to a receiver, if you can drop something to something else and make a lineup make sense, that's just naturally not occurring projection-wise, I would really try to do that. Build for shootout and pray, that's definitely one way to get unique, I would say. Double DST and kicker wins tonight, we riot, and then it'll be a chop fest, and that's how it goes. So it's up to you how you handle it. Like, I think if you're playing for just the, hey, it'd be great if I won money on the slate, even if it's a 500-person chop for first place, play some more defenses and kickers, play some more middle projection lineups. If you're going to go weird with it, getting weird captains, even though the captains are really just the only guys who are viable on the slate. So it's tough, man. This is going to be a tough slate, I will say that. But I'll be back, guys, later today for NBA. So please go check out @SplashPlayNBA, 4 p.m. Eastern. We're doing a similar process for NBA. I'll be talking about my projections, stochastic projections, unabated then by 4:30 when the projections are released to the public. We're going to do basically prop markets for unabated data. So it's really fun. The unabated team, I have to give them a lot of credit because I haven't gotten to know them over the last few weeks. They hired Justin Fan, formerly of Underdog, formerly of Fantasy Labs, a guy who's basically created all the notification systems out there. He's going to be the one leading their projections. So they're putting a lot of work in it. I'm helping out as an affiliate / also I'm writing some DraftKings articles for them to help them out. So that's what I have going for NBA. And of course, I'll be on Deeper Dive on Stochastic at 5 p.m. too. So you basically can get 2 hours of NBA content from me later today, starting at 4 p.m. And that's going to be the case a lot of days of the week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. You get a 2-hour block of me between Stochastic and that channel. But Splash Play NBA, check it out later today. This channel, please subscribe with the like button. Of course, the work continues here for NFL as well. And my brain will just slowly expand with all the knowledge I'm accumulating from multiple sports at the same time. But NBA, NFL, my two passions. I'm glad to be able to do it. And in large part because of you guys helping, being supportive on this channel. So it made me feel like, hey, I could make the sleep with NBA. And of course, the sport of Stochastic and unabated too. Big helps for that too. So shout out to them. Check out Stochastic, 15% off, link in the description. Solver, link in the description as well if you want to check that out. Unabated too, link in the description if you want to get $30 off a month with unabated and check that out later today. Check that out, link in the description. And shout out to all the members here. Might be one new member I haven't added on yet, but appreciate everybody who's joined. You too can support this channel, joining down below for $4.99. And how it's going to work when NBA gets memberships, I don't know, but we got a while to go before that. But subscribe to the Splash Play NBA channel. See you guys there later today. And of course, say gamble responsibly. Where's that? Even though it's always money time. Back later. See you for NBA. Enjoy your days, guys. And of course, good luck. Bye-bye.